Good morning and welcome to the Franchise Minute. I'm Anna Wiles, the franchise economist. Our special guest today is John Taylor with Homestretch, a Rep&M brand. John, welcome to the Franchise Minute.
Anna, thanks for having me.
So glad to have you here. Really do. This is an exciting concept you're going to tell us about. So our topic today is adding value to one's home just before it gets ready to have a for sale sign planted in its front yard. So before we jump into that, John, tell us a little bit about you and how you came to work with Homestretch.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Yeah, so Homestretch is a new brand to the Rep&M inventory, but it's not a new brand in business, right? They've been around since 2019. Me personally, I came to the Rep&M group in November of 2022 with a background in home services. I came from an entrepreneurial family. Father was a custom home builder. My mother was an interior designer, still is to this day. I've been in the space for a long, long time, and it's an industry that I love. I love getting in and making a transformational experience for homeowners and facilitating that in business these days with helping new franchisees open up their Homestretch.
So, John, please share with the audience what Homestretch does and what makes it unique.
Oh, very good question. So this is a very simple concept, right? It's a simple business. It's not easy being a business owner, but it's a simple concept that everyone can relate to. What Derek and Nick, the founders of Homestretch, have created here is a simple way to do all the cosmetic improvements to generate ROI on a home when it goes to market and sell, doing that with speed and professionalism and at scale. So it's taking an industry that it already exists, right? There's already painters and flooring people out there and landscape companies and real estate professionals who use these individuals to get a project done in some shape or form. But it's fragmented, right? It's clunky. Everyone's had an experience with a quote that takes a long time. So they've bundled together these 5 important services, bookended with the 2 things that you do every single time when you sell a home. You have to clear it out and you have to clean it, right? And everything in the middle is done to create maximum ROI when you bring that house to market so that you don't have to sell it as is anymore. You don't have to go through the headache of 2 or 3 months of doing the cosmetic improvements. Your real estate professional would partner with a brand like Homestretch, and Homestretch would come in and do this quickly, seamlessly, relieving the stress for the client. And Anna, that's something we talk about all day long. It's the stress of moving, right? So we really focus on the 3 Ds of our business. It's death, divorce, and downsizing. Right. Our least stressed out client is somebody who's retiring and moving to Florida. And even then, right, what belongings do I take? How do I prepare my home to sell it? What can I get out of my home potentially? And everyone these days is a real estate professional in their own mind. So it's something that everyone always wants to achieve maximum value when they sell their home and not just let it go for original listing price.
Right. And it is just absolutely amazing, John, what a coat of paint can do. Right.
90% of that house is floors and walls and ceilings.
Right. Good point. All right, John. Well, on this show, on the Franchise Minute, we just love to crush preconceived notions that people have about franchises. And with Homestretch, what is like a top issue that you really have to help people get over when they're thinking about Homestretch?
Certainly. I love that question. Most individuals have received a painting quote or a lawn quote or some kind of service around their home, and they've had a bad experience. So preconceived notion about the business is timeliness, professionalism, and then where does our labor come from? How do we retain labor? How do we maximize labor, right? It's a big question these days, and Homestretch has a very unique answer. Number one, we partnered with a national organization that a lot of people have heard of called Sherwin-Williams, right? Have you heard of Sherwin-Williams?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Most people, when I speak to them about Homestretch, and the common individual would think Sherwin-Williams is just a painting company, right? They're also one of the largest commercial flooring contractors in the country. So we've partnered with Sherwin-Williams we've partnered with them for guaranteed, pricing on product at a builder grade price scale. So Homestretch franchisees are now the big fish playing in the waters with the giant contractors who build multifamily housing units and big condos and skyscrapers. So it allows a margin gap for our franchisees to charge a very fair price to the consumer and still make a profit, an ideal profit margin. But it also gives us access to their subcontractor network. So we use a model called a hybrid subcontractor network. And it's actually dedicated subcontractors. We keep our subcontractors busy enough that they stay with Homestretch consistently, meaning they spend 40 hours of their week working with the Homestretch franchisee. And as soon as you max out that unit, you scale on another team. Now they're 1099 employees, not W-2, but we use the term dedicated subcontractors because they are not fly-by-night subcontractors who come in once in a blue moon. They represent the brand. They understand the Homestretch standards. And it's a beautiful relationship because we have unlimited resources. For instance, on the flooring side of the business, which makes up a big piece of our revenue, it is completely turnkeyed by the Sherwin-Williams local location. They inventory all the materials. They cover the stock and the overhead of the material on the flooring piece. And then they send their dedicated subcontractors to turnkey the flooring project for the franchisee's client for Homestretch.
Wow. That's really very eye-opening. I was not aware of that. Fantastic.
It is eye-opening, Anna, and it is flattering, right? This is a multi-billion-dollar company that sees what Homestretch is doing. That partnership began almost 2 years ago. It formalized last year into a 3-year contract. And we continue to grow with Sherwin-Williams, and they want to grow their residential piece of their business, their residential P&L, with Homestretch getting into every neighborhood from coast to coast.
Very impressive. Wow, what a differentiator. So no issues with the labor. And not only that, because I have had franchise candidates ask me, well, Anna, because there's several home concepts that use subcontractors for their labor. And they said, well, what keeps like the customer from, going around the franchisee and just hiring away that subcontractor? But you've answered that.
Two key roles that we have in the business is a business development director and a project manager. So there's two major sides to this business. It's creating relationships, deep-rooted relationships for reoccurring revenue with the real estate professional and doing the quotes and the consultations for the client with whatever they're going through while they're getting ready to sell their home. And the other piece of the business is an internal team member that is a project manager. So this could be an owner that's more ops focused that wants to handle the project management side, or it could be an owner that's more business development focused and wants to do high level relationship building to support their franchise organization. So you start with those two key individuals, a project manager and a business development rep, and you can even scale internally and add labor employees to the model that work directly for Homestretch. They could do some of the auxiliary services that otherwise you would have subbed out in the beginning, like landscape cleanup or cleaning the home or junk removal. So that's why it goes back to hybrid subcontractor model. So we depend on the subcontractors through the national partnership with Sherwin-Williams on the flooring and the painting side. And we'll use local partners until we've scaled the Homestretch location to have internal employees to handle some of those auxiliary services.
Okay, John, that was very helpful. Now, let's talk about the role of the owner. So I heard project management and business development. One of the common preconceived notions I get from franchise candidates if I were to present Homestretch, they would immediately think the owner has to pick up a paintbrush or a hammer. So is that the case with Homestretch, or is it just project management and business development or management role? Just help explain that.
So we have flexible ownership model here, Anna. You can either be an owner operator, right, who fills one of those roles. If you're ops focused, run the project manager. Maybe you're picking up a hammer or cleaning a toilet on Friday evening that the cleaner missed, right? You're in business. You're going to do everything you can to make sure that's happening. If you're an owner operator that's more relationship focused and they want to focus on high level business development and even doing some of the consultations, understanding their business intimately, you can go that route and hire your counterpart in the project manager. We also have an option for semi-absentee, and we like to call it an active semi-absentee ownership role. We look for somebody who's going to spend 10 to 15 hours a week actively being an owner in their business. And that's really focused on high-level business development, supporting their staff and managing their staff.
I call that manage the manager. So you've got people in place and you're managing your team. You're letting them do their work, give them the freedom to do that, but the owner doesn't have to be there every day.
Certainly. And there's options for that. We have both style owners coming into the model right now. And if you want to go into anything there, we can talk about where Homestretch is today. Happy to.
I would, because that I was going to ask you a tough question here. I was going to say,
Please.
many people, you only have, how many franchisees are currently operational right now?
Great. Well, I'll start with corporate locations and kind of the history of Homestretch. We launched in 2019 with a concept from scratch. The two founders, Derek and Nick, they're phenomenal, involved founders. They're not first-time entrepreneurs. They've done this before. And they started Homestretch based on a need from real estate professionals in the market. And they started with two services, clear outs and cleans. And then over the next few years, they added in the painting, the flooring, and formalized execution of those revenue streams. They then opened a second corporate location in 2021 in Columbus. And now our third corporate location opened in August of 23 in Indianapolis. Our first franchisee came into the fold in January, right when we launched this to the franchise network in your portfolio, Anna. They're going to be in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they also have multiple territories spanning out into Florida, Tampa, and St. Pete. We have franchisees opening up in Reno, Nevada, Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina, along with one other one that's pending currently.
Wow, that is a lot of growth since January of this year.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. And audience, if you're listening to a replay of this, this is March 20th, 2024 is when this is being recorded. That is absolutely tremendous growth in the first 90 days. So,
tremendous, but sustainable, Anna. We want to make sure we're bringing on phenomenal partners and growing strategically at the right pace. And we're right on target with our plans.
Okay, so this is a beautiful opportunity, John, for you to explain Rep'em and why Homestretch is a Rep'em brand and how Rep'em helps them, not only just the franchisor and the franchisees grow sustainably.
I love that. So I'll segue from why Homestretch selected Rep'em as a partner here to go to market into a little bit more about what the Rep'em Group does for our franchisors and our franchisor partners. So Homestretch, they're not first-time entrepreneurs. They've got a beautiful concept, and the Rep'em Group looks for two things: amazing founders, a unique concept, and actually three things: solid unit economic performance, right? So we want something that's unique, something that is differentiated from the marketplace as is. Multiple revenue streams are ideal. And Homestretch had an option here. They could have built out corporate locations nationally and grown at that level, but they recognized that this is a people business. This is a business about people in their local community helping out their fellow neighbors, helping out the real estate professionals. It is a win-win-win business if I've ever seen one, Anna. So the better strategy to take this into every market across the country is to bring on qualified franchisees that love their brand. They love what they do. They love helping people. They love helping people achieve ROI and get through the stress of moving out of their home. So Homestretch knew they needed a really good partner. So they found the Rep'em Group almost a year ago now, and we did plenty of due diligence, right? The Rep'em Group has multiple pillars that help a brand grow sustainably, from a scale 'em division, a branding division, a grow 'em division that I'm a part of, and also a build out division so that franchisees are opening on schedule, on time, within their item 7, and eliminating some of that stress there and eliminating the sold but not open category of franchising that we all hear about. So couldn't have asked for a better partner in Homestretch, and I believe they'd think the same of us. So we're helping guide them to grow in the right way, right? And Derek and Nick, the two founders of Homestretch, are phenomenal. You know, they're not always worried about being right, but they're worried about getting it right. And they want to make sure they're doing this from the very beginning the right way with experienced people behind them, guiding them in the right direction.
Well, I'm a big fan of Rep'em, the Rep'em Group, because of how they help franchisors grow properly and have the infrastructure and the people in place as they surge like Homestretch is. Well, John, we are out of time. Thank you so much for being here. If anyone wants to learn more about Homestretch or any Rep'em brand, what do you recommend they do?
I recommend they reach out to you, Anna. You have 20 years of franchising experience on the consultation side. I recommend they give you a call. And if they're asking about Homestretch, show them a few other brands, right? Show them a few other options. And you do what you do. And I think your viewers should lean in on your knowledge and get the best experience out of looking at franchising possible.
Oh, well, thank you for that, John. I appreciate that. Well, audience, thank you so much for joining us. This is John Taylor with Homestretch, a Rep'em Group brand. And Thank you for watching and listening. Be sure to come back next week. The topic is going to be FSOs, franchise sales organizations. That's a relevant topic for anyone who's considering becoming a franchisee, and it's really a big dynamic in all of franchising. So you're not going to want to miss it. Come back next week at 11:30. See you next week. Bye-bye.